Hi, so today I'm going to be showing you how to use your Spectra. This is the Spectra Blue. This one operates on a battery, so it doesn't need to be plugged into the wall. You can be a little bit more mobile than you can be with the pink Spectra. So that's the benefit of the blue one over the pink. Aside from that, there's not really any difference to them. They have the same suction features, so you're going to get the same level of suction out of either one. These are the collection cups along with the flanges. I don't use the Spectra brand ones because I found that they were too small and they also had a tendency to tip over. I use the max strength ones. They are a lot sturdier and they also hold more milk. So if you find yourself filling up the 5-ounce Spectra ones in a single pump, then you should look into these ones as an alternative. Not sponsored or anything, obviously. I just really enjoyed them. These are the flanges. I use a 21 mm flange, and these are the membranes. This is what will provide the suction for you. Without these, you're not going to get that suction and you won't get the milk out. And the way they work is you don't really want to do this with them because it wears them out. But they just kind of open and let the milk flow out in between pumps of the breast. So you clip that on, and then you twist it onto the cup, and then you attach them to the backflow protectors, which is just 2 pieces of plastic between a silicone piece, and that silicone piece in there is what is going to give you your suction. So you just twist them on. Like that. Okay. Now, an important part of this that no one told me about, I kind of had to figure it out for myself, was the importance of lubing up the flange or your nipple while you pump, or prior to pumping. So I'm gonna do that. You'll unclip your nursing pumping bra. Pumping bras are a lifesaver. I didn't use them at first. I just pumped each breast individually, but it took way too long. And it was not efficient, even though I felt like I got better output. So now that nipple has been lubricated, you're going to push the flange through and then line up your nipple so it's in the center, kind of like that. And then you'll do the same for the other one. Personally, I use coconut oil for mine, because, well, one, you get way more volume for a fraction of the price. It ends up being a better deal. But aside from that, I find it more comfortable than I found like lanolin, which was sticky and tacky, but that's another popular option. So once you get your nipples lined up in the middle of the flange and you make sure everything's intact, you're going to hit the power button. Now, there are multiple settings on here. I guess you don't have to, but it's the two settings have two different functions, two different things that they're replicating when your child is sucking on your nipple. The default setting is what the child does once your milk is flowing into their mouth after you have a letdown. Since immediately once putting the flanges on, you're probably not going to instantly have a letdown, it makes sense to use the other setting, which you adjust using this button. And this is going to provide faster sucking motions of your nipple. So it's going to more quickly take your nipple deeper into the flange, and it's not going to offer as strong, like deep sucks as the other function is going to. So, and you can adjust the vacuum, so the strength of it, using these up and down buttons. I've been pumping for over a year now, so my nipples are a little bit less sensitive than they used to be when I first started. When I first started, I only used like a 2 or a 3. But you find out where is comfortable for you, because that's the thing. This should not be painful. Pain makes it harder to achieve a letdown. It should be comfortable and painless. So I'm running this on that Strength 5. I'm gonna call it the first setting, the one you use to get the letdown. You can also adjust how fat. Oh, no, you can't. So, a lot of times it's helpful to rub your breasts while you're pumping. Doing that is supposed to stimulate the milk ducts in your breast and kind of get them to release the milk. Now, the goal isn't necessarily to push the milk out. You don't need to be super forceful with it. Gentle, even just pitter-patters. Fingertips kind of just gliding across the skin can help with that. It's mostly just activating the nerves in your breasts so they get the signal to release the milk. So, as you can see, I'm getting a few drops out here and there. But I'm going to keep massaging, keep feeling until I get a good flow of milk. And that can take several minutes. It's not always a quick process. And oftentimes, not oftentimes, but you might find that changes throughout your breastfeeding journey. In the beginning, I was very quick to letdowns. I'm talking like 2 minutes maybe. Now it takes me somewhere more in the ballpark of like 4 to 5. And as you can see, it looks like one is starting to hit. Now when you feel a letdown, it might feel a little tingly. Some describe it as like maybe pins and needles. But it'll probably, for me at least in my experience, it is like more centralized to the nipple area, and it kind of works its way like throughout the breast, so it kind of does that sort of feeling for me. The feeling used to take me off guard, especially at first, but now it's a lot less I don't know, off-putting. It's overall a pleasant experience. For some women it is not. But here you go. You can see the streams of my milk flowing in. And this is the active letdown stage. At this point, this is when you might change over to that other setting level. So we're going to hit that button above the power button again. And level 5 for this is pretty low for me now. I'm probably going to bump that up to like maybe an 8, 9, 10 maybe? It depends on the day. But that seems to be working well for me. So I'm going to leave it there at 9. What you can also do is adjust the cycle using the up and down. And what the cycle does is that adjusts the speed and, well, I guess the overall strength, how far it's taking your nipple in. The lower the number, the less times in a given amount of time it will be taking your nipple up. And then the higher the number, the more times. And you're not really going to know what works best for you until after you try it. Some days feel a bit different than other days for me, even different times of the day. So it's still like every day I just turn on the pump and see how I feel like I need to adjust the settings. There's nothing wrong with changing the settings. You just do what feels right and what gets the milk out. You can see the streams are coming down. The cups do have a measuring on the side, so you can measure the ounces. Something a lot of people do is not look at that while they're pumping. I find that useful in that I can just relax and just lean into the pump. Sitting somewhere in a quiet space, if you can. I know that can be a little difficult sometimes, but if you do get the chance, sitting somewhere quiet where you can relax and just focus on the way that the pumping feels can be helpful. Feel free to touch your breasts as much as you like during this process. I find that although I'm told I don't need to squeeze the milk out, doing that can lead to clogs. I've never had that experience, In fact, I found that the streams are stronger when I kind of give a little squeezes, and I am able to clear the milk out faster, which is helpful sometimes, you know, how busy we are. But that is the general basics of how to pump. I probably won't stay on the whole time. I do a long pump usually, so I pump anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes at once. And I do 3 pumps a day. One of the pumps I usually do for less time. That middle of the day pump is usually like a 15-20 minute pump. But these morning and night ones, I do find it much better to get in a longer session. If you're pumping early day type times, like when the milk fresh comes in, you should be doing that more frequently. It's recommended anywhere, well, it's recommended about 8 times a day on the lower end generally. Fitting that in can be really difficult. But in those cases, you know, a 15-minute pump is enough. But overall, even in those instances, it's about listening to your body and doing what feels right, because it's different for everyone. So I still have another 20 minutes of pumping left. I feel like I've been as explanatory for the most part as I can think of. Now the number of letdowns you might get, that also varies from person to person. It takes some people longer to get a letdown than others. Some people it takes really long the second time, or really not long. I would say that my letdowns, as I have gotten further along in my breastfeeding journey, have gotten further apart in time, but they last a lot longer than they used to. I mean, I used to get a letdown every like 5 minutes, it seemed, where the milk would stop, start, stop, start. So it was kind of a lot. But now they last longer. I don't have to touch the pump as much while I'm doing it. But yeah. So that's it. I think I covered the basics of how the pump works, the flanges, oil, which is very important. When using a pump, if you don't use lubrication, you open yourself up to all sorts of pain. Trust me, I went through all that in the beginning. I had no idea. But as soon as I started using the coconut oil, I had an instant improvement. Well, my nipples had some healing to do. But immediately, like just a few days after, it was a whole different experience, and it was so much better. But that's all the tips I have. I'll be putting out more videos like this in the coming future. I want to make this a regular thing. Just I feel like I've learned so much. I feel like a veteran breastfeeder now. So I just want to share the things I learned along the way that I definitely didn't know starting out. So you'll hear more from me if you want to. And I will see you soon.